I was, I'm like, hold on, do we even have audio right now? I had to pause and like check. I'm like, wait, we might not have audio. That has definitely happened once or twice. Let me see. We're gonna use this as our audio. So
and this has been the bane of my existence.
Trying to
make
make
sure that the audio works.
Maybe
that's it. We'll see.
Okay. So it's a social deduction.
Hopefully,
game.
someone will let us know if the audio isn't working.
It's a social deduction game if you enjoy games like Werewolf or The Resistance or Secret Hitler, and you're looking for something different to add to your collection and play with your friends. I would definitely say check out Red Scare from Pandasaurus.
Red Scare also was one of the first games that was play tested, because like the Ultimate Team Up events, like the Ultimate Team Up playtesting events, started, and you were really like one of the first people to show up, and like one of the first game designers, I should say, to show up and start playtesting, and just kind of like, okay, what are we doing here?
Well, yeah, like the Ultimate Team Up, I'm so glad to be part of the Ultimate Team Up network. Gerald, you're doing a great job putting together events.
You do. I feel like sometimes Ben does, because he admins the Facebook group. I mean the Facebook page. So sometimes I feel like Ben does more on the Facebook page than I do, because I have no time, because I'm trying to like conceive all these like random projects.
Right.
You know, I'm experimenting.
I get it. But we're here at the Board Gamers of Greater Akron, so that's part of the. We used to do these events called Bogadap, which is the Board Gamers of Greater Akron design and prototype events, and so we rolled our Bogadap events in under the Ultimate Team Up umbrella, so that the reason I guess I was so ready to get things up to speed with the playtesters is because I've been running these events for 4 or 5 years now at this point.
The DAP events.
I want to give a big shout out to Philip Migas of Board Gamers of Greater Akron. He was the one who originally founded the Bogadap events.
So he's like the original Northeastern Ohio playtester.
He is the originator for sure, and he is going to be moving away from Greater Akron area. So I know it's going to be.
Where is he go? Is he moving to Florida?
No, he's moving.
Everybody always moves to Florida.
No, he's moving further south, I believe, in Ohio.
So. Okay. So he'll still be in Ohio.
Right. So we're going to keep the Boga events running as part of the Ultimate Team Up network, but it's going to be me heading it at this point.
Awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited for Phil to be established somewhere else in Ohio, so that maybe then he can start a playtesting. Maybe in like a year or two, he'll be established enough and ready, and he can start a playtesting group somewhere else.
Well, I mean,
we can travel to every once in a while.
The thing that Phil did such a great job is he had connections. He would go to Origins and Gen Con, which if you are in the Northeast Ohio area, I mean, both of those are close enough that you can make it Columbus and Indianapolis, Indiana. And he would network with the publishers who were there, and the publishers would send him prototype games that he wanted to get playtested. So not only were we playtesting games that our game design network where people were designing, but we were also playtesting outside publishers' things. And that did two things for you. So if you're looking to get a playtesting event started, I suggest reaching out to publishers, because one, you'll start to build your network with them. They will know you, they will know your name, and they'll know you're doing work for them in the way that you are playtesting for them. And so,
because playtesting is definitely, I mean, it's definitely a service to some companies, especially that when they don't have access to
right.
groups.
And so what's great about that is then you then have an in. If you have something that you feel would fit into their lineup, you can say, we playtest this game. Do you have any interest in yada yada yada? And you're not just some guy that they don't know from Adam. At that point, you are someone that has done work for them in some respect. And the second thing that does is you'll find if you start a playtest event, it'll be the same 4, maybe 5 designers, the same 4, maybe 5 games, and people might start getting burnt out. So if you're bringing in games from outside publishers, you'll have more opportunities to playtest a wider variety of games and sort of really stretch your game design muscles in that way by having a whole larger scope of things that you are able to to pull from, and
Yeah.
you'll be able to see the types of things that the publishers are looking for and the type of prototyping they do and all that type of stuff. So losing Philip is going to be quite the blow to our group because he had a huge established cachet with the publishers already, and we are going to be.
So is he gonna pass some of those relationships on to you and try to introduce you to them? But you also have relationships of your own now because as a game designer, you primarily focus on like a lot of us. We're self-publishing, we're using Kickstarter and crowdfunding, but you have focused almost entirely on dealing with publishers and building relationships with publishers.
I mean, my relationship is not the same as Philip's because Philip was primarily reaching out and saying, hey, we want to do this for you. And I'm primarily reaching out as like, hey, are you interested in my work? I feel...
you definitely went the other route with
I want to give a shout out to Jeff Boltz. He does a great job. He's sort of taking over Philip's role in a way because a lot of the stuff that the publishers will send to you will be print and play, which means you're going to have to do some prep work in order to bring it to the table.
Yeah.
And Jeff has been doing just a bang up job getting those things printed.
Yeah, putting them together, putting them in sleeves, and learning the rules.
And so he sits down and he teaches us the game, and he just makes it so I really love that I can sit down and Jeff already has the game ready. He can present it. I can, try and eat the rules in as he has learned them.
Exactly.
Because these are blind play tests, so he's just doing it from a rule book, and we're trying to figure out exactly how things are supposed to go together.
And he's really good with rules.
Right.
So he really is. I'm the worst.
I
don't know how you would consider yourself with rules. I am the worst.
I'm not so great at writing rules.
Look, I don't know. I don't know if any game designer is actually good at writing rules. If there are any out there,
so
I would
any of you
love
aspiring
to talk
game
to
designers, work on your rules writing because it is the hardest part, and there's so many stumbling blocks. And hey, if there's any rules editors who want to
please shoot us a message. If you're interested in hanging out and editing rules over a beer or something, please shoot me a message.
We the game designer, if you want to be involved in the game design community and you don't feel like you
are a game designer.
Yeah,
and you probably are, but it's okay if you don't feel
everyone's a game designer in their own
Exactly.
Right. But there are always skills that you can bring to the table, and there are always services that the game designers and publishers are looking for. I mean, most obviously artwork, but hey, we need layout.
Yeah.
We need graphic design.
Oh my God, graphic design.
We need editors.
Yeah.
We need.
And what's crazy is too, for me, I love game design. But I'm really better at social media and event organization than I am. I feel that I am.
I would say the secret sauce to Ultimate Team Up at this point is we each sort of have our niche.
Yeah.
And we're all filling it.
And we all are passionate about game design at the end of the day. So we're willing to contribute every other skill we have so that game design can grow. And so that we have that available.
And that's an important thing to the aspiring game designers out there is think of ways that you can give back to your community and your gaming groups, because even though this has got my name on it and it looks like a one-man show, it was a large crew of play testers, it was a large crew of gaming groups, and so you try and find ways that you can give back. If people want, I step up to run special events. I used to be a convention organizer.
What was
Ancon, and stuff like that. So the more that you give back, the better footing you'll be on when you have an ask of somebody, because you're not just coming out of the blue. No one really appreciates the game designer who swoops into a game design group for one night to get their gameplay tested and then disappears, never to be seen again.
Exactly.
Because it's they just showed up to.
And it's don't get me wrong. Sometimes we've had people show up and I've definitely never seen them again. But sometimes they showed up on the perfect night when it was just we needed a new game to play that night.
Right.
And they served that purpose. I'm not saying don't show up one time, but don't plan to only show up one time.
I'm not trying to dissuade you. in any way. You know, give what you can give at this point. But you know,
but
just
give a little bit more than that.
if you can.
just a little, like, oh, you can give that, you can just a little bit more.
So that was Red Scare. I guess my other game is also a social deduction game. This is Bitten. It's from Cat Dragon Games. It's available on Amazon. I think it's Redshift Games is the company that's currently carrying it, and it is in distribution at this point, but it's getting out there sort of slower. This is also another social deduction game, but where a lot of social deduction games are all about the verbal lying, and you know, like, you know, it's all about like
they want you to do theater almost.
Right. This is the social deduction game for people who may be more shy. You don't have to talk in the social deduction of this game. It's sort of the cards that you play will do the bluffing for you.
Awesome.
So it's like social deduction with the poker bluff in it.
Yeah, see, I feel like that's more my kind of social deduction, because I'm okay with the lying and the like putting on a show, but it wears on you.
Right.
I mean, it wears on you, especially if someone decided, let's do a social deduction at the end of the night. Yeah, I mean, like, I may not have the energy to like create the story and the fiction.
Social deduction games are a ton of fun, and I'm glad to see that the genre has expanded to such a large degree.
Yeah.
But I still a lot of them are 20 minutes of argument over one gameplay action, where this will have you making it'll be a constant drip of information because people are constantly playing cards and selecting cards and doing all of that stuff. So
now, how long is like your development process for a game? And I mean, I know it varies, but like, do you feel like you have like a faster churn, or like, you know what I mean? Like, do you have like 10 things in the fire and then slowly something rises to the top, or are you laser focused on each project as they're in development?
So everything I'm about to say is me personally.
Yeah,
so
no, definitely.
If you work in a different way, that's fine. But what I found is you start with a very large funnel. You want it to be huge. You want to have all of your game ideas going in here, and don't finish your game before you play test it. Like, the moment you have something that you can throw on the table, put it on the table.
Immediately.
You will learn so much from seeing it played.
Yeah.
And so, like, commonly when I come to these playtest events, I call it a game sketch. I'm like, we're not playing a game.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the scoring. I don't have that worked out. I just want to see this mechanic and see if this mechanic works.
Yeah, and we're not even going to finish. We're not even going to try to
I'm not even going to teach you the whole game. I'm just going to teach you this mechanic, and I just want to see what goes on with this. And then we play through that, and we see how it works. And if it falls flat on its face, I'm like, well, that's one less thing I have to have in this big hoop. And so I'll winnow down from 10, 15 games to maybe 3 or 4 that I'm then going to actually put some time in. I'm going to lay out some cards. I'm going to print it and sleeve it so it looks like a real...
Going to actually open up software and do a little design work.
And so I then have like maybe 3 or 4 games at that point that I'm then like throwing out on the table. And then I see which one has the most spark, which one I'm the most inspired to work on. And I'll try and run one of those across the finish line. I mean, it got to the point for me where I had so many, games on the fire, but nothing across the finish line. I said, no new games. I said, no new games until I get something out into the world.
That's what I did with Flip and Fine's Diner after Pest last year. I was like, because I saw it happen. You know what I mean? Because like for me, I was moving towards. Anyway, I'm really adamant. I'm gonna do self-publishing. I'm gonna do Kickstarter. And I ended up not actually self-publishing. Yeah, I mean, I teamed up with Spontaneously Combustible.
Go support this guy's Kickstarter. Flip and Fine. Yeah, go check it out.
Can you do me a favor? Grab the box over there. I'm so silly. Everybody gets mad at me afterwards because they're like, you didn't even talk about your game for like more than 30 seconds.
It's on Kickstarter now. It's been play tested at the Ultimate Team Up. I know Gerald's put his heart and soul into it, so
it's been a long process, but slowly.
I would love to see this fund show up in my mailbox because I think supporting Northeast Ohio and Northeast Ohio game designers and growing the community. I mean, it's all good for it. So definitely go check out the Kickstarter for Gerald King and Spontaneously Combustible Games, because he's got this stuff figured out, and get that into your gaming collection. So.
But thank you, Ben. It's funny because like I know you haven't really seen a lot of the other live streams, but that is the key to the format at this point, is me not talking about my game and then the person I'm interviewing grabbing my game and doing exactly that. Because it's hard to shill for me.
The self-promotion is hard. You know,
Yeah.
I have 2 games out there now, and I found it's weird to talk about.
Talk about yourself.
Well, yeah, because I mean, so I have no shyness when it comes to like, this is a game that I'm designing and I throw it on the table.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm like, it's broken, we're not gonna have fun, but hey, let's play.
And you know, people who know me sort of expect that, and and you know, and I'm not asking anything but their time, but you know, I figure like I'm friends with them. This is good company, and this is something I want to do. But like the moment it's like, hey, it's a product now. How about you throw out some cash?
Yeah. Exactly. Then it becomes like a nerve-wracking experience. I'm like sweating at the thought of having to ask people.
I'm just not comfortable with it yet, you know. Just, you know, like the fact that I have put myself in this box in some way. I have taken my thoughts and I've pulled them out into physical reality and stuffed them into a box that then has a barcode on it. And
it's like an actual thing. It's like something you go into a store, something you're going to
pull
pay
out
money
cash,
for.
you exchange capital in exchange for goods, and then the goods becomes a service as you play the game out there. The modern world is insane.
Yeah, exactly. It's terrifying. I really wish that it was just like, make games, hand people my games, suddenly there's food in my refrigerator.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
that exchange of money is still sort of strange, but but I guess getting back to that, like I'll have 3 or 4 games, I'll find the one that sings, and then around this time now, I start focusing in on Origins and Gen Con, because they have these events called publisher speed dating events.
Exactly. Which are bread and butter for someone who is not trying to kickstart their games, but trying to build relationships with publishers. The publisher speed dating events are absolutely invaluable.
I highly recommend them. Both of my games that are published at this point were picked up at these events. They are much bigger and much more popular now, so it's harder and harder to get in them. They're sort of winnowing down, so do your research on your site. Make sure you've got some good pictures, make sure your game is ready to be pitched, and that you're ready to put your best foot forward, because you'll get in front of 8 to 14 publishers, and you're just sort of hoping one of them takes an interest.
So it's definitely speed dating, though.
Yeah,
it's definitely like
you get 5 minutes with the publisher.
Oh wow! So yeah, you have to be ready.
Right. My advice, if you do go to a speed dating event, is don't teach the game, pitch the game. Don't try and teach them rules.
Yeah.
You just want to like give them like theme, player count, rate of game, base mechanics.
This is what people have loved.
What makes this game different? Why is it going to stand out on the store shelves? Why should you be interested in the game? Have extra copies of your sell sheet printed out. Give them a sell sheet, and if they are interested, they will reach across that table and say, "Hey, come find me at such and such time, either that night or tomorrow. I want you to demo this for me. I want to see this game played."
Then you're going to teach.
Then you're going to teach the game. Then
don't try to teach the game in 5 minutes.
No. So
don't try to teach your 4X space game in 5 minutes to a publisher who is looking at 20 people that day or
you
more.
You want to be memorable. And the other thing is, I try to. You have 5 minutes with the publisher. I try to keep my pitch 2 to 3 minutes, and rehearse. So that it is memorized, and don't rehearse the day before the event. Start rehearsing a couple weeks before the event, because what's going to happen is you're going to sit down, and the pressure will be on.
And it's going to be terrifying.
And you might blank out a little bit, and I actually have like a little script.
That's what I was going to say. Do you have note cards?
I have a not note card. I have like just like a little tiny thing with
just bullets
with the bullet points of the things that I want to say, the points that I want to go over, and if I get lost, I can look right down there, pick up where I'm at, and continue with the pitch.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, if they are interested in the game, they're not even going to be looking at you. They're going to be looking down. They're going to be picking up the components. They're going to be flipping through the cards and taking a look at it.
They're pretty much going to ignore you while you talk. They're going to do their thing while you do your thing.
Right. So you want to get to the end of those 2 or 3 minutes, have them interested, and just like I'll straight up ask and be like, do you think there is a space for this game within your lineup? Because, I mean, the thing about Publisher Speed Dating Event, it's not going to be 12 publishers who are tailor-made to like a small social
exactly.
Someone will sit down to like, we only do miniatures games. You'll be like, well, I have a social deduction game, and if they're not interested, then I have 5 minutes just to network with them.
Yeah. Well, do you still practice your pitch, or do you just go right into the networking and kind of ignore? Do you ignore game and just become a game designer at that point? You know what I mean?
It depends. Some of them said like, well, I'm still interested. You know, give me your pitch.
Because they talk to someone else down the line.
Right, and I've had some of them say, give me pointers on my pitch.
Yeah.
Say, like,
that's good.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, again, my pitch is only 2 or 3 minutes, and so then that last 2 minutes or 3 minutes is network and give them time to ask questions.
Yeah.
Because if your pitch runs right up to that,
they have no time. They literally get up, and then they probably feel unfulfilled as well if they did have a question.
Right. I mean, the goal is to get some other time that you will be able to meet up with. At Origins, it's much more laid back, much lower pace. You're much more likely to land a meeting at Origins with them later on.
Gen Con.
At Gen Con, these guys have every minute scheduled from start to finish of the con. They're going to say, hey, give me a copy. Oh, here's another thing. Bring 4 or 5 copies of your completed prototypes in a box that has your name, the game's name, your contact information on the box.
Make the box the business card.
Right, because what they're going to say is like, hey, do you have a copy of the game? And if you can go, here you go, and has all that information right on there, they're going to take it, they're going to put it in their bag, and they're going to get to it at some later point.
Yeah, and you're more likely to just stay in their mind. And more to the point that if you're with a publisher that isn't necessarily interested in the game that you're doing right now, you intend to do more games.
Right.
So it doesn't hurt to at least maybe not build the relationship, but make that first contact.
I have so many boxes with my name out in the wild that nothing has come of. Like, I mean, that's the other thing to keep in mind is just like I said, like you're going to start with a large hoop of games to try and get down to the one that you're going to be pitching. You're going to have,
the same with publishers.
You're going to have, the last game that will be coming to Kickstarter. Yeah.
Wait, is this
Night Falls?
Night Falls, yeah, that's right. I definitely want to get into that.
I have 6 copies of this
huge game. Oh my God, it's like 5 games.
Out in the wild with publishers at this point.
You see people complaining about prototyping costs, and every time I see someone complaining about, oh my God, I spent $70 on this prototype, all I ever think about is Night Falls. I'm just like, oh my God, one of the mini games in Night Falls is the size of the game that I was in a group watching someone.
He's over exaggerating.
It's not that big.
It's not that big.
It's an extensive thing.
It's
a mega game.
It's definitely bigger than these small little game boxes that I put together. I finally sat down. I said, I'm going to do.
You're going to do an experience.
I'm going to do a big thing. I've got my feet under me at this point.
Yeah. I'm ready to take up your whole day.
It's still only 2 hours long. It's still only 2 hours long, but there are so many people who start with their magnum opus, and the temptation is to try and put every mechanic that you like and every thought that you have into this one game, and then you end up with a box that's bigger than Twilight Imperium and takes 4 hours to play and 2 hours to teach. And no, if that's you, just know, if you're playing with your friends and you and your friends are enjoying, congratulations, you've made a game, and great. But no publisher is going to want that.
If you're unknown,
Especially if you're unknown.
Unless it is simply the most amazing thing, but the likelihood of that is really...
You are going to be so, like, you're going to be so far, you're so close to your game, you can't get perspective on it.
Yeah,
because,
it's impossible.
Because to you, you're like, everything makes sense, I know all the rules and the edge cases,
Yeah.
you know, teaching it is easy, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you go through your first rules explanation, people are just like glazed over, you know, like, oh, my game has got too much. Like, I always tell, like, my first advice every time I sit down with new game designers and look at new games, I say, like, well, what's your core experience? And which parts of your game are serving that core experience? And which parts of your game are not serving that core experience? And can you cut those? And in my mind, the answer is always, yes, you can cut those. But people will have reasons why things are in there. And then I ask them, like, well, is that the core experience that you wanted?
And it's funny, too, because he's not joking. That is literally what he said. Because I can remember when you said that to me, when you asked me that about Flip and Finds at the Malted Meeple. It was the first time I had ever, because you actually were the first game designer to ever give me feedback on my design. So when you said that to me, and you were like, well, what's the core experience you're trying to do? And I was like, I want to make a light memory game. And you know what I mean? You were like, well, you didn't get there. And I was like, huh. And then, but like that really pulled me back, and like, because that is a really good question for a game designer, because it forces you to say and to claim what you're trying to create.
When I start a game, I usually write a vision sentence or two.
Almost like you're for a business, or you know what I mean, or a case study.
And so like with Bitten, I'm like, hey, I want to make a social deduction game for people who want to play a social deduction game but not have to talk.
Yeah.
And that's what Bitten is. For Red Scare, I was like, hey, I want to make a social deduction game that has a decoder in some way, and
that's extra fancy. I refer to Red Scare as the extra fancy.
That the decoders went through. Originally, it was like a punch board, and people had like.
I don't think I ever saw the punch board.
No, yeah. So it was a punch board decoder, and people's cards were. It looked like static, like a static screen, and you put it behind the punch board.
Oh,
and
then it would and then it would make it look.
You'd have like little dots on there that would mean certain things, so you would be able to read the pattern and stuff like that. And people had different punch boards, which would give them different information.
That is interesting too.
So
though.
Yeah, like I started from the beginning, like saying like, hey, I want a social deduction game where you can look at a card and it can tell you nothing. And so I will have a card that tells me nothing, but somebody else will be able to tell me something.
That is an interesting way. That's an interesting puzzle. I mean, when you put it that way, when you say I want to create that really is an interesting puzzle for a game designer to try to solve.
And so I was like, so what could I do with that? And I was like, well, it's got to be social deduction, because some people are going to have information, some people aren't going to have information. And so I brought Red Scare to market in that manner, with that goal. So
I love that, because I've actually seen Red Scare now, in the wild for 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years. Yeah, because I have pictures of it being played in a very different form. But I think I've never seen it without some form of the glasses. I've only seen it with the glasses.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. I even think like the first time I saw it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. So Gerald was asking, how quickly do I spin these games up?
Yeah.
Red Scare is one of the first games I started designing maybe 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh, wow. So you've really been developing that idea.
The issue was I couldn't crack the decoder thing.
And that's a puzzle, though. Yeah, that really is one.
It started with the punch board, and the issue was it was too slow and finicky.
Yeah.
And so then it moved.
And I can imagine that'd be harder to explain to some people.
And so then I made like little magnifying glasses with the red thing in it.
Oh, wow.
And so then people would put it over it, but then that meant people with the magnifying glasses had all the information. People without magnifying glasses didn't have any information. And then I was like, well, what if I took some 3D glasses and I cut the 3D glasses in half and took all the red halves, and then I flipped half the red halves around and taped them down there. So you definitely had like the Poindexter look.
Yeah.
And I made these red glasses. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll put this on my face. Now I can only see the card decoded, and then the other cards were originally printed in a very light red ink, so that would fade away. And the Ian O'Toole, who did the design for Red Scare, did the research and figured out that there's a blue ink, so you can get a couple different shades of blue. And when you have the glasses on, the blue all looks the same color black.
Oh, wow.
So when you put the glasses on, if you have the decoder glasses, half of the cards are printed in this blue ink, and it just looks like a black card to you. You're like, I have no idea what this is. But to everyone not wearing glasses, there's two different shades of blue, and they can clearly see what. Yeah,
wow.
He was
and that
wizard.
Coming back to like
wizard.
the team. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that from just with the knowledge base that you have, there was no way that you would even have considered.
Right.
You know
I mean, I was convinced. I was like, well, they're going to have to be very careful to hit the exact right tone of red that the glasses would filter it out, and not having glasses could still read it.
And of course, the same way you saw the puzzle, he's like, oh my God, there's a better way to do this.
Yeah, it was.
That's awesome.
Brilliant. So
that's really cool. I didn't realize that, because I guess that would have to be the case, because the way this game works, it kind of baffles you from the player perspective, the way it's happening. You know what I mean? Because you've never done that before.
It's a bit of a brain burner. The rules in the game right now are turn taking, which is what the publisher, when they took it, it was originally sold as a social deduction game like Pit.
Okay.
Where Pit is where you're yelling out and trading cards and stuff like that. It was a real-time game.
Yeah.
And they've left those rules in there as the variant rules for advanced play.
Yeah, exactly. Which you could probably grasp a little bit better once you played it a couple times.
But the issue was the starting players, like, they would look at the cards and then they would just be like brain burning, like
because you're like, what? You're like, I have these glasses on, I can see this. Wait, I can't see this. Wait, I can see it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're stuck in a loop.
So
of like
the publishers,
thing.
Pandasaurus very wisely said, like, we need to slow this down for fresh players so that they don't have a terrible experience.
Yeah.
And so what they did was they made it turn-based.
Yeah.
And I think that's great for your first game, but hey, if you want things to really shine, like once you got people who are in the know, just start a 3-minute timer. You can't accuse before the 3 minutes is up, and then you just start trading around, yelling, I got a Soviet, and then
and that's how I remember the playtest. But of course during the playtest you were there. Yeah, I mean, so it was a little bit easier for us, and of course we had played it a couple times.
Right.
Night Falls.
Yeah.
How did Night Falls come about? How did you decide? And we'll tell people first what Night Falls is.
Okay, so if you've never heard of a Megagame, just Google "Shut Up and Sit Down" plays a goddamn Megagame.
Yeah, that is the best intro.
There's this incredible video that they put together of them playing this game. It's an 8-hour event.
Yeah.
Around 50, maybe. Well, the first time they played, there was only 50 people. Then they put their video out, and everyone showed up for another one that had like 200 or 300 people. It was crazy. So these events play 50 to 200 players in around 8 to 12 hours.
They're not called mega games because they're small.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes 8 to 20 people to run these events.
Yeah. There's a whole staff.
And the idea behind it is each sort of table represents like a country. And so you have a prime minister who is running the economy. Then you'll have a UN ambassador who literally leaves the room and goes to another room with the other UN ambassadors and like argues and votes for things and makes resolutions. You'll have another member who's on the science team, and they're going out to do technology for your country. Yeah. And then there's like someone that you send out to the war room to like move your units around on the map and dispatch people to crisis zones. And if you're in one of those stations, no one from the other stations on your team can come into your space. Like that is your
that's like the thing that you have to do.
That's the thing that you're doing.
That's your role.
Your head scientist isn't going to be like, send the tanks to each.
Yeah, exactly. It's like cooperative but segmented.
Right.
In the way that you have your thing to do, but you will have to communicate with other people.
And what happens is all of these different narratives start evolving Because the information I have in my space is completely different from the information someone has in their space, which is completely different from the information someone else has in their space. And the people running the event, it's sort of like a role-playing game, kind of like a LARP.
Yeah.
And they will introduce story elements that just start making people panic and run around and think things are going
world-ending scenarios.
Right.
Or...
The most common or well-known one, which you'll see on the Shut Up and Sit Down website, is Watch the Skies, where one team plays as the aliens, and the aliens are sequestered off in an area that's away from every other team, and no one can communicate with the aliens, so the aliens are doing things on the map,
and you see it happening.
And you see it happening. You have no way to communicate with them or know if they're hostile, if they're not hostile. Yeah. And like the governments are trying to keep the aliens under wraps because if they let everyone know there's aliens and everyone panics, it's a whole big thing. So, I mean, it's truly an experience. And I have had the honor of playing in a couple of them at this point.
Yeah, I've watched the videos, and I've actually, like, for the Night Falls mega game, which started out definitely a little bit longer than it is now. Yeah. And I can remember the first time I actually did video for it. I feel like it was about 4 hours.
Yeah.
It was like it started out as a longer experience. Now the difference between Night Falls and these larger mega games is essentially the amount of time that it takes to play it.
Everything is scaled down. So the problem with mega games, I mean, if there's a problem, is that it takes such a large amount of resources to get together. You know, if you want to play a mega game, you're probably not going to get to play a mega game. You'll probably have to run a mega game to try and get other people to run a mega game.
Or you have to travel to a convention where a mega game is being ran.
You know, like it takes like 20 people, and you got to get them together, and you have to train them how to run this game, and then you have to rent a space, and then you have to sell tickets. It's not like something you can put together. Hey, this weekend, Jared,
it's like throwing a convention.
You want to play a mega? Yeah, it's exactly. It's like throwing a convention. So my idea was, what if I could take this and put it into a box and make the experience small enough that it's manageable, that I could be like, hey, Gerald, this weekend you want to play a mega game?
Yeah, because it's possible.
And then people will just open up this box and have that experience. So,
and then they might have that experience too, and then be like, well, now I want to do. They might do that 2 or 3 times and be like, okay, I wonder what the 8-hour version of this is like.
So Night Falls is a mega game where it takes one person to run it, just one moderator. You can run for 8 to 32 of your friends.
Oh wow, it plays up to 32.
Plays up to 32.
Wow, I didn't realize that because I think I've only seen it with about 20 people.
Yeah, I've gone up to 20.
Oh wait, no, I think 26. No, the one at Nordonia Library, that one had a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, they're getting up there. So
yeah, that one had a lot of people.
So it plays you can host it for 8 to 32 of your friends, and it plays around 2 hours. So think of it as like the party game for board gamers.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's definitely a party.
You'll be walking around, yucking it up, and like you'll be on. I broke my game into 4 main areas. There's a cityscape, which is sort of an area control game.
Okay.
There is the edicts, where you're basically the person running the economy. Okay. You're telling the units which units you want to fight, which units you want to make more units, which units you want to make money.
Yeah.
And that's on one side of the room. And on the other side of the room, there is the marketplace, where someone is buying and selling and trading goods.
Yeah.
And finally, there's a council where people are voting on earth-shaking events. And everything you do in your station interlocks with the other stations. So, you know, the points the person is earning in the area control game becomes voting power. So the person in the council can vote for stronger.
So are the players in the game allowed, like if you're on the same team, are you allowed to communicate with your team members?
Yes. So in this game, if you're on one side of the room, that means you can't go to the other side of the room to look at the stations. But you can communicate with your player if you both walk to a neutral zone, usually in the middle of the room. Yeah. So you'll walk to the middle of the room and be like, "Hey Phil, come on over here! Like there's, you know, crap is going down over here on the board, and I need you to buy me some more defense cards because we're going to need it." And then Phil's like, "All right, I'll run back over to the marketplace and see what I can
So
get."
You really are relying a lot on the information.
But then Phil tells you like, "Hey man, I've got no money, so go tell Jacob over there to get me some more cash so I can buy you some defensive things." And you're like, "Well," and then you're like, "Jacob, come over." He's like, "No man, hold on 1 second, I got to put some orders in and stuff like that." So
that's awesome.
It's the key to it is how well you communicate with your teammates and how well you see the other teams communicating and stuff like that. Because you can intercept their plans.
And you can take advantage.
You can take advantage
of the weakness you see in the other teams. Like, oh, they're not doing that right at all.
Right.
I'm definitely going to pile on right there.
Right. So it's currently got vampires and villagers. Most of the current mega games are all historical. This is just, like historical as in like centered around real events. Like the game Diplomacy. This one is just sort of Gothic horror. It's got vampires and villagers, and we're going to be throwing it up on Kickstarter hopefully this Halloween-ish is what we're aiming for.
Which is awesome.
And we're going to have stretch goals for additional factions. So I've been working on a group of Cthulhu cultists, so that they can be trying to suck Cthulhu, and the other factions can determine whether or not they want to stop them from summoning Cthulhu.
Because maybe summoning Cthulhu is what you want them to do.
Maybe you can help them out, or maybe you can get them to get some stuff out of them.
Maybe you think Cthulhu is going to help you.
And the one that I just finished working on is Devils.
Devils.
So you can make a deal with the devil. The devils are all about stuff where they're like, hey.
They're trying to disrupt.
No, they're like, hey, let's make an alliance, Gerald. And the moment me and Gerald are in this alliance, I can then screw him over so hard. But like, all of their stuff is tempting because it's like, hey, if you form an alliance with me,
you get all of this.
I'm going to give you all of this great stuff. And then Gerald's like,
I really need that stuff.
I need that
stuff. Those are for the people who are really paying attention.
Really?
And they're like, oh, I see, you guys are screwed right there.
Right.
So hey, I'll help you there.
The devils, if you like being manipulative in a game, then the devils
it's definitely
are
for
great
you.
If you check out my page, BK Game Design on Facebook, or you can email me at BenK Game Design at gmail.com. I am running as many of these events as possible. I'm running them from free where possible. I'm giving away prizes because I need to get as many playtests in with as many different players as possible in order to make sure all of these stretch goals that we're working on right now are worked out, they're balanced, the numbers make sense, and then they're a fun experience. Because like my goal is to make this a fun experience that you can bust out and be like, we can go as small or as big as we want tonight. You know? Like,
and it will play.
And it will play.
And I think that's a good lesson for a lot of game designers, regardless of the size of your game. If you realize no one is showing up for your playtest or no one wants to play your game, entice people.
Right.
Don't be afraid to say, hey, here's a pizza. If you play my game,
Pizza's pretty
you
common.
Get some pizza. That's like the most common, pizza and pop.
Or snacks.
Snacks, anything. You know what I mean? But like, don't be afraid to say, hey, let's do a play to win.
Give back, like we're saying. Like, give back.
Don't be afraid to give something to your play testers and thank them for play testing.
So if you want me to give back to you, I believe I'm running an event May 12th at the Nordonia Hills Library. You have to double check my events page for specific times. And if you have a group of 8 or more people who want me to run this event, reach out to me. I am always on the hunt for players, and if you've got people, like, I'm literally coming there to throw you up game parties. so if you have like
it really is
right.
It
if
really
you have
is.
at least 8 players who want to have a game party, just reach out to me, and as long as you're willing to give me some feedback at the end, like
you have to talk to them when it's over with.
But,
that's the price you got to pay.
Even if you lose. So. But I'll also be running it at Origins, and a big shout out to the Megagame Coalition. They're a group of mega gamers from all around the world, and we're bringing a whole host of mega games to this year's Gen Con. So I will be running it Saturday night at Gen Con this year.
Oh, that's going to be exciting.
As well.
That's like prime time, you know what I mean? Like Saturday night, that's pretty cool.
Right. So it's going to be a big fun event, and we're just going to make things crazy.
I know the what is the name of the publisher for
Everything Epic Games?
Everything Epic. I've been saying Epic Games, but I knew that was wrong. Like in my head,
Epic Games is video games.
Exactly. And every time I'm like, but it's Everything Epic.
Everything Epic, they really props to Everything Epic.
Yeah.
Chris and Evan over at it's not Mind's Eye Theater. It's some game theater
in New York.
In New York, they run a lot of Vampire the Masquerade events, and so like they've really like latched in.
They've
like,
embraced the concept wholeheartedly.
Chris is a big mega gamer. They run Dragon Thrones events, which are like these big, full immersive events, like in a castle.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so like these guys are doing it upright, and we are trying to put everything that we think is epic into this game. We want everything that is cool and exciting and enticing to be into this Kickstarter so that we can make it the biggest, best experience that we can make. Because this is going to be the first mega game in a box. Like,
and that's a big deal, I think. I think that's a big deal because just like how I was earlier this week, I was showing people Palm Island from Portal Dragon, and Palm Island is a game that you play in your hand. You never set it down. It's literally the entire game is you holding the deck of cards and shuffling through it. You activate resources by tilting them to the side and exposing the resource. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really, really different. And when you see something that different, regardless of whether or not you like it as a game designer, it's inspiring because it opens a new door. You know what I mean? It's like you've been walking past that room. And there may have been people who've been looking at a mega game like, man, I really would like to make a mega game. But now when Night Falls come out, those game designers will see Night Falls and be like, oh, I don't have to make it that big. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be that intense. It kind of reminds designers that they can scale back you know what I mean? Like you said before, you don't have to make your 4-hour magnum opus. You can take the piece of that really works. And scale it down and make it really fun.
And we're hoping to build a community. We want to. We are working rules in that allows the moderator. Right now, like in the base game, the moderator is basically like they adjudicate rules.
Yeah.
They run the timer and make sure people are going to the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And sort of do the resolution at the end of each round. But Chris really is like, hey, you know, like. For accomplished LARPers, for accomplished role-playing game people, like what can we add to this game to give that moderator...
To give them some kind of narrative control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're working those in, and what we hope is that the community gets excited, and what we're calling as scenarios will be something that takes off, where the community will want to write their own scenarios.
So essentially then it's almost like... Night Falls becomes an actual system.
That's the idea.
Where you're creating modules.
We want it to be a game system, not necessarily a board game.
Yeah. Because it's not a board game.
You can open it up and you can play it, you know, as is where the rules are currently set at, and you're going to have a great time with your friends, 8 to 32 of them.
Yeah.
But like, hey, if you want to put like a little pinch of something special,
especially once you guys have already done it,
right? To have people coming back again, you know, then the moderator has these special things that they can put in that no one's expecting that's going to make everything play out in an entirely different way. I mean, it would play out entirely differently anytime.
Yeah, but especially if you have a group,
right.
Once they become familiar with it, and you already know, there's no reason to go back to a game if you can't really change it a lot of times because you feel like, okay, we've done this.
I have people come back over and over because they're like, I want to try the Cityscape this time.
Or I know I could have done this better.
Right. So, you know, like we have a ton of repeat players at these events. I mean, they're getting bigger and they're getting out there. I sent out maybe half a dozen alpha copies out there to groups around the country, in England, in Australia.
How has the feedback been from those different groups?
They have fun.
Yeah.
They have fun.
That's really cool. I've been trying to like slowly develop a network of sending out stuff like that because in our community we have so many different games being play tested, and at the end of the day, in all reality, there isn't enough people. Yeah, I mean, there's not enough of us to play test all the games.
Right.
You know, so like spreading them out and like sending them to other people is a really important part of the process.
Right. So if you see anyone say Night Falls Megagame and it's not my name attached to it, they probably have an alpha copy, and if you go out there, you're going to have a good time. Yeah,
pretty much guaranteed. I've of the couple events that I guess I've covered for Nightfall, I don't think I've ever seen anyone not like at the very least people are just like, oh my god, I've never seen anything like this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even if they were over, but I mean it's not even for me, like, because you know me, I'm always like, I don't want to do something that takes that long. You know what I mean? I'm terrified of doing something that takes that long.
2 hours?
Yeah, it's funny because now I feel like that is like me repeating a script from like when I first started. Because now, like I sat down for an hour and a half at Helios Expanse from Greenbrier Games, their prototype, and I was like, oh man, I could have really played it for another half hour, you know, like play testing Josh Fry's 4X space game.
Oh my goodness.
Then that's a long one,
Yep.
and I finished that one. You know what I mean? And at the end of it, I'm like, okay, that was good, you know, and like I don't feel the same fatigue that I used to feel from the long
You built up your
games.
gaming muscles.
I have.
Well, the nice thing about Night Falls is each of the 4 stations, it's a totally different game. It's not like I
Yeah.
made 4 area control games.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
no.
very different experience.
So like, if you like get into a station and you're like, ugh, this isn't for
Yeah.
me. I don't like what's going on here. You can go back to your team and say, hey, next round, you can go over there. I want to go to the council and see what that's all about.
Yeah.
And like, the games are so disparate and they're so varied. Like, there's gonna be something in there for you to sink your teeth into that you're gonna enjoy. So, you know.
And I love watching. For me personally, watching the Night Falls game played, I love watching the treachery. Because in a game like this, I don't know how built in things like the backstabbing is. You know what I mean, to the actual core of the game, but watching people backstab each other just naturally.
There's incentives for backstabbing. It's just like diplomacy. Like, everyone could play diplomacy above board, but then you wouldn't win.
Yeah, exactly.
So at some point, you're probably gonna have to like tell someone, don't worry, man.
I promise you.
Move your units there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna back you up. We'll form this alliance on the alliance board. We're good to go.
And I love watching people's
and then
faces.
they'll move their units, and then they'll just walk away, and they're like, oh,
what are we? I'm here. And you're like, well, what happened was.
What happened was I wanted to take this area of the map, and you're not there anymore. So I guess I'm going over there. Sorry.
That's my best. And I mean, I guess that's probably not the best feeling for the people who get betrayed, but that's like where the tension of the game
people
comes
who get betrayed,
in.
like they immediately can go to the rest of their team.
And say,
hey,
across the board,
the red team
blacklist
screwed us. And so these other 3 members on their team can go off to their stations and start screwing with the red team, and those red team members may have no idea why this is happening.
Yeah.
So then, like, you get to screw over the other members of the red team, and they don't even see it come. Yeah,
It's awesome. It's a really awesome experience. But beyond that, I mean, I know you have a lot of energy going towards Night Falls right now.
Yes.
So is that pretty much your primary focus right now, or do you have other things?
I have other projects
that you use. Do you have like things on the edges that you use to occupy the extra time?
I try to run multiple games. So you asked very long ago, how many games do I? I usually have 3 or 4 games that I'm running seriously.
Yeah.
Try and get them to the point of publishing. So. I have something I hope to bring to Publisher Speed Dating at either Origins or Gen Con this year. Another social deduction game.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's where that's clearly where you found yourself most comfortable.
Right.
In design is using those different. I don't know, the different tools of social deduction.
Night Falls is so big and encompassing and exciting. I was like, I know I can do a small little social deduction game. Yeah. And bite that off and chew it up and digest it.
Because Night Falls isn't really a social deduction game, but it is a very social experience.
It's a social experience, but yeah, I'll have another social deduction game that I'll hopefully be shopping around. So, and if you follow me at BK Game Design, I'm always posting updates and stuff like that. Yeah. So. And you'll be able to find about upcoming Night Falls events and all the other projects I'm working on. And I try not to be too spammy. Like I said, I'm always trying to give back. The stuff I'm posting is like, it's great Kickstarters like Gerald's.
Yeah, like Flip and Fine's Diner.
Flip and Fine Diner.
On Kickstarter until April 10th.
I try to post about playtesting events. I try to post about events that I'm running. Yeah. And when I'm running events, I usually try to give away prizes and stuff like that.
Or at least snacks.
Right. So, I try to make my page worthwhile and at least entertaining.
Yeah. So. Which is not easy. It's the upkeep of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and the constant grind that you have to really be a part of to exist in the whole game design ecosystem can sometimes be a little.
Well, you don't have to.
No,
if
I guess
you
you
don't want
don't
to. If
have
you're a game
to.
designer who's not into the social media stuff, like you can just be someone who, I mean, you can reach out by email to the publishers and
Yeah,
see
that
if
is
they're
true.
taking, like everyone has some sort of, most publishers have some sort of submission policy. You can go look at that and post and do that and follow it down. But I will say though, like if you are looking to get published through a publisher, if you are even looking to do a Kickstarter, if you're looking to get your game out from your group of friends into the whole wide world, you're gonna have to do some social things.
Yeah, whether it's social media, events, or something.
Well, no, you're at least going to have to talk to publishers.
Oh yeah.
You're at least going to have to, have those types of conversations. So like, if you are not comfortable doing that, then maybe you don't take your game out into the world. Plus, like, the world is mean.
Yeah.
The world is nasty.
Yeah.
People
are not always going to give polite feedback. They're not always going to give it to you in a way that they might not even be being rude. It might just hurt your feelings.
Right. I mean, even games that are published, people are going to review and
tear apart.
They're going to tear stuff apart. So, like, I know Red Scare is not for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I know Bitten is not for everybody.
Yeah.
I know these games, there are people who are going to open it up and they're just going to say, I don't get it, or I don't like it, or this felt weird, or I didn't understand. And like, there's nothing you can do for that. And you're gonna have to develop thick skin. So I mean,
and you're going to have to remember your core audience.
Right.
I mean, don't forget who you made the game for. Like Flippin' Fine's Diner, I can't count how many reviewers in their reviews said, this is a great game. I don't like memory games. I didn't like the fact that I had to do this much memorizing, that I didn't, they've even said, I didn't realize I was going to have to rely on my memory this much, because it is a memory game. So like, if you don't like memory games, you're not going to like to play Flippin' Fine's Diner, especially with a bunch of people with good memories. And it's a miserable experience. So I mean, you definitely have to always keep in mind your core audience and try to hope that the game reaches them as much as it reaches the people who are like, meh, I don't know about this thing.
Right. I mean, what you gotta remember is, hopefully somewhere out there, and they may not verbalize it in a way you can see it, someone is gonna pick up one of your games and they're gonna have an experience that you crafted for them, and it will it'll touch them in some way. Most likely they'll just be entertained.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
But maybe they'll get a story around it.
Right. I'm not expecting everyone who picks up Bitten or picks up Red Scare to have their life transformed by it.
Maybe Night Falls though. Night Falls is one of those. Night Falls, I feel like it is that thing that has the possibility of you play it and you're like, whoa.
I'm aiming high.
And you might be. You might be a Megagame player from that. That might change your life.
I gotta say, like the reason I made Night Falls is because I got to play in a couple of Megagames, and I just said I need
to do
more of this in my life.
Yeah.
How can I make this happen for me? And not need 20 people to organize it. To just need 20 people to play. Right. And I know once it hopefully, fingers crossed, successfully kickstarts.
Exactly.
It won't be me running the events. I'll be able to find other people running the events.
And be able to play your own game! Yeah. Oh my God, I never thought about that, because you never have got to really play it.
I have played it in smaller player counts with experienced board gamers.
Yeah.
You run it without the moderator.
Oh, okay, especially once you've done it.
Right. So I have played it once or twice.
But you've never really been able to experience it.
But no, when there's 24 people, you
gotta work.
You gotta
make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, and that's crucial.
Right. So I'm so excited for the day that I can walk into an event at like a convention
And just act like you don't know.
act like
anything.
oh,
What is this thing? Oh, this I signed up for this. It looks pretty cool.
yeah, and then like I'll get my team of 3 people, and then I'll immediately be like running the show.
You're immediately like, look, for real, I'm actually the designer. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do.
You do this.
Yeah.
You go do that. All right, go team. I'm 3. Hands in.
Oh God, that's awesome. I look forward to the story of that experience.
I can't wait.
Oh my.
Hopefully we get there at some point. So.
That will probably be right around Christmas. That'll be your Christmas present.
I don't know if we Kickstarter in October. I don't think it'll be fulfilled by Kickstarter.
No, definitely not. No, maybe next Christmas.
Yeah,
maybe
some
next
point. At some point.
But okay. Well, I just want to remind everyone that this has been the Ultimate Team Up Spring Break Tour, and that this is our last stop. It's been a pretty cool experience. It's definitely been something that I failed at a couple times throughout the week. It's been a playtest though, and that's what I keep reminding people, is that I'm playtesting this format and this idea that we can do what like indie music does and what like books do, and we can go around and show our games to other people and just kind of interact with the community on the boots on the ground.
Check out Team Up's events.
Do that.
We run playtest events all the time, and if you follow it on Facebook, you'll never be for want of an event to go to.
Of an unpublished, you'll never be for want of playing a game that isn't published. That's for sure.
Hey, like I said, like if you're looking to get into the community, like even if you don't want to design a game or do art or graphic design or layout, we need players.
Yeah,
so
we always need players.
We always need players.
Always.
So like that, if like just showing up, and if you don't have something that you want to throw on the table, but you're like, hey, I'm willing to play your game and give you feedback, like gold star.
Or if you have something and you don't feel like you're ready. You know what I'm saying? If you're nervous and you're just not, you don't feel like you're ready to put what you have on the table, come and play, see what it's like, experience.
Meet us, see what we're doing, see how we talk, and we always need players. Hey, I need players for my May 12th
I should have asked you beforehand so I could have it queued up on the thing next time.
So.
But yeah, so thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. I really appreciate everyone. Remember, Little Finds Diner is on Kickstarter now until April 10th. It's a light memory game for families. And thanks a lot for watching us talk, I guess.
Harold, thank you for having me on, man.
Definitely, man. All right, guys. And now the awkward moment where we wait for the broadcast to end, because we're actually still live.
We're vamping.
Exactly, but this loads up and then...
We're vamping.